Let's talk to Liz Webster, who is the founder of Save British Farming. Liz, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Is it snowing where you are? We've got a lot of snow falling at the moment.
No, we've just got rain here, a lot of rain.
Oh, have you? OK, well, never mind. It's a winter wonderland in some parts of the country. We spoke to you yesterday, Liz, and you were very forthright about some of the things that were going on. Today, we've got 20,000 plus farmers coming up to London. We can see there a couple arrived last night, driving around Westminster, down by the Houses of Parliament. It's a big day, isn't it, for the farming community? It's a big day for the Labour government, really, but it's a bit unfortunate the Prime Minister's not here to witness what's going to happen and not here to kind of receive whatever it is the farmers would like to tell him.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'll hear it through the media waves because, you know, it's dominated. The story is dominating the news channels right now, and that's brilliant because this isn't just about farmers. This is about everyone's food. If you don't have enough food, then inflation goes through the roof and money has no bearing to anything. So food is quintessentially important, especially domestically produced food. If you lose your ability to produce food in the country, you've got no control over anything because you rely on other countries to feed you, and that is a very uncomfortable place to be.
Indeed. I mean, a lot of people have asked me this morning whether or not the supermarkets have got a role to play here, because I know from speaking to farmers in the past that sometimes supermarkets can be a very, very difficult nut to crack for farmers in terms of what they will pay for certain food and for certain goods, particularly dairy. Milk prices are controlled, it seems to me, by the sort of supermarket cartels. Butter prices as well, presumably cheese prices, egg prices. How difficult is that for farmers to kind of navigate, if you like?
Well, you know, the strength and growth of the supermarkets has been the issue that farming has faced for the last few decades. Yeah. Because there's a drive to keep prices down, and they've had supermarket wars, you know, amongst each other. The difficulty is with supermarket owners is they don't farm. They just think they're always going to be able to go out into the market and go, oh, you know, here's a British apple, it's 50p, and here's an apple from South Africa, it's 25p, so I'm going to go with the 25p one. Right. But what happens when the 25p one isn't available and you've smashed your domestic market? That's the problem. And so they're always assuming that world markets are always going to be full of food, which they have been in the last few decades. But as we know, the world is really in a very fragile place, which is when a sensible government should be thinking contingent plans around food, because, as I've said, without food, you've got complete and utter breakdown, and you're open to being held to ransom by your enemies. So for Ukraine, for instance, they've had Putin attacking them. The one thing that Ukraine have got is a lot of food. It's the breadbasket of Europe, which has given them strength. We are not in a good situation because we decided to do Brexit and cut off from the mainland where we shared food supply, you know, and food security. It was hinged in that. So we've already weakened our food system by doing Brexit. And now to do this on top of Brexit is suicide, in my view. Right.
So in terms of who gets to charge what, though, for supermarket sales from your farms to the supermarkets, you know, how does that actually work?
We are not the price setter. The supermarkets decide the price, and world markets on grain. Right. So we are completely and utterly, we are told what we have to pay for fertiliser, seed, chemicals, everything, and also wages for the people that work for you. And then it's a gamble. You don't know what you're going to get. Right. You know, you grow.
So it must be quite difficult then. So it must be quite difficult then to kind of plan ahead. You know, for example, if you're sitting in a farmhouse right now trying to work out what 2025 is going to look like, you can't really project what the prices are going to be in order to know what you can pay for the people that you're employing. And you also know that your national insurance is going up because the government's doing that too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of our farmers, his wages bill from the budget has gone up by 4.2 million next year. Wow. And he grows most of our raspberries. And if he doesn't grow them, you won't be having any raspberries on the shelves and soft fruit. And so this is the whole.
And how many people are you talking about there? How many people does he employ, this guy?
Oh, I don't know the numbers, but it's a lot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if his wage bill's going up by 4 million, he must employ hundreds of people.
He does, yeah, and this is the whole point. It's not just about small farms. you know, suddenly turning around and doing a shock to the system like this is an existential threat to our food supplies.
Yeah.
That's the point. You can't eat inheritance tax or any tax. You need food. And so if a government is waging war on your food, you should be worried.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm worried. Because without food, you're looking at instability and, you know, people die without food. They starve.
Yeah.
So, and animals do too as well, because pets rely on food too. And so do the wildlife. So it's an utterly irresponsible, negligent act of this government to wage a culture war around tax, which is feeding envy, the politics of envy, when really we are all humans and we all need these basic commodities.
Well, they've said this morning in the Telegraph, Rachel Reeves has said that they need to get this inheritance tax collected in order to pay for the NHS. We spoke to Gareth Wynne-Jones, a farmer that you'll probably be familiar with, who said to us this morning that would pay for the NHS for one day.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, they're just literally, they're not telling the truth. They're twisting the truth.
Yeah.
And they're misleading people. Having, you know, when the Conservatives were in government and there was chaos going on, they were making out that they were going to be better than anyone and they were going to change everything.
Yeah.
And actually it's got worse. We've gone from the frying pan completely into the fire. And it's very, very concerning. And we need change. And the Labour MPs on the back benches, they need to take back control because the leadership have got this wrong. And the only way they can sort this out is by sensible heads coming together. But there is no way. I mean, I watched Will Hutton on Newsnight last night, thinking that by breaking up farms, it's going to give opportunity for younger farms. This just isn't true because the...
Well, Will Hutton hasn't made any sense for about 20 years. I mean, I wouldn't bother watching that. Seriously, I mean, wean yourself off of Newsnight. You won't get any sense out of them.
Well, I'm watching anything to do with farming. And ultimately, you're trying to understand what they're thinking. But to shock our food system now is utterly... It's just utterly irresponsible, and it's literally going to lead into chaos. And it makes no sense.
Absolutely right. Liz, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Liz Webster, founder of Save British Farming.